Hello, I'm Bernie Hayes. Today's guest is Dr. Ronald Gregory, and we were talking about several things, including Sumner High School, today on The Bernie Hayes Show. Welcome back. Like I told you, my guest is Dr. Ron Gregory of the New Millennium Group, the president of the New Millennium Group. Good morning, Ron. I'm sorry, I meant hello, Ron.
Hey, Bernie, how you doing?
Fine, Dr. Gregory. The New Millennium Group, what is that?
That's a group I formed in the year 2000 I was doing two things. I was bringing entertainment in, hosting shows with entertainers, and I was also doing health and wellness events, teaching, discussing things that people could do to enhance their health and promote longevity, and just put them together. And the way it was done, we said, hey, this is the new millennium and something is kind of different, so that's the name that we tacked on it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of folks and even I find myself sometimes doing this, introducing you as Dr. Ron Gregory, as Dick Gregory's brother. But you've done so many things, and people don't realize that I knew you before I came to St. Louis, and that's been over 56 years ago. But you've done so many things you're on your own. The track at the Sumner High School is named for you and your brother, Dick and Presley, right?
Right. When they decided to name the track Gregory's, then, my idea is like, this was a stepping stone. My oldest brother, Presley, ran track first, a distant runner. Then Dick came along later on and started running, and he really excelled, and then I picked up afterwards. So my feeling is that if the three Gregory brothers were involved with track and the progressiveness of it, then the track should honor all three of us.
Mm-hmm. Instead of just you and Dick, yeah.
Yeah.
And Presley's name was added.
Yeah.
There was a movement, I guess it's been halted now, it's still in progress, to close Sumner High School. Tell me your thoughts about closing an institution such as that.
Yeah. The thing that really amazes me is that a lot of the very historical markers of African American achievement in St. Louis have just sort of gradually disappeared. So the young people who come along go through the neighborhood and they're not able to see what their ancestors did. And so Sumner was, one of the big mainstays in that, because your educational institutions are your springboards for everything else. And you had Sumner High School, you had Homer G. Phillips Hospital, you had Stowe Teachers College, and you had Lincoln's Law School. All these things right there in the area of the Ville. The only thing that's left in that area that youngsters can see is Sumner High School, because Homer Phillips is no longer a hospital. It's a elderly, a senior citizen housing area.
Right.
But like I'm saying, when you come along as a youngster, you need to see things that people, your ancestors and people who are like you, achieve, so you can go from that point forward. And what we're seeing is these institutions are gradually disappearing, and it affects Black achievement immensely, because we have to know what we did in the past so we can continue on in the future.
Yeah, I know. Then Wendell Phillips High School, my high school that you're a good friend at Notre Dame went to, your track mate, they tried to close Wendell Phillips High School at one time, but the people not only in Chicago, but in the surrounding areas, says you will never, ever close the Wendell Phillips High School because of historical value. And I equate that to Sumner, what's going on in Sumner now, because I know you're getting support not only from people who went to Sumner, but from people outside of Sumner and from people outside, even outside of Missouri, saying Sumner can't close, not with its historical value. Ron, Dr. Gregory, you also ran for mayor at one time. And I remember at the top of your agenda was, you talked about Homer G. Phillips Hospital, but you ran on health care and you ran on saving the homeless, two of the major issues that were in your campaign. Could you kind of talk about them today and why you ran on those?
Yeah, well, those were key issues in the city of St. Louis, and it's even an issue now. How you can have a city, a state, and a country like St. Louis, Missouri, and the United States, as rich and as powerful as it is, and you walk around and you see people living on the streets and living in parks. I remember as a youngster seeing pictures like that of rural India. And I never thought that I would grow up seeing these type of things in my own country. And it's out of neglect. It's not that we don't have the resources and the money. The problem is the resources and the money is concentrated in areas where people have everything and not coming down to the very needy people. And I think you measure the moral society of people by how we take care of the littlest people, the people who are greatly in need. And, when we have people with millions and billions of that, so much money that they couldn't spend it if they lived 3 lifetimes. And it's just sitting over there not doing anything when you have people in this country who are homeless, people who are hungry and in need of better educational facilities. For instance, this year and last year, when the COVID hit and people had to be at home, kids had to be at home getting educated, all of a sudden they realized the tools and equipment that were needed, the very people who needed the most didn't have it. And so my concern when I was running for mayor was talking about let's include the people who need housing. Let's include better education facilities, and let's include looking at these people. Let's stop making them invisible like they don't exist.
Yeah, they got rid of all the free hospitals that look like Homer G. Phillips Hospital closed, City Number 1, City Number 2 closed, St. Louis County Hospital closed. I know that was a main concern of yours too. So how's conditions for black people changed and gotten any better hospital-wise, healthcare-wise?
No, and what you're seeing in these areas is these little urgency care, little pop-up storefronts that you run in and they, do a real quick examination and trying to diagnose things that are wrong with you. The problem with that is these little pop-up stores, they will pick up the superficial things that's a problem with you, but the things that's causing this is misdiagnosed. Yeah. So we need the big hospitals and things like Homer Phillips, where our doctors were trained in our big medical schools. Yeah. To be in the community.
Dr. Ron Gregory is my guest. Ron, I want to come back and also talk about the Ville and how urban renewal destroyed Mill Creek and things of those sort. With the New Life Evangelistic Center, 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri, Reverend Larry Rice is still trying to reopen 1411 Locust Street, downtown St. Louis, Missouri. He wants to make it a daycare facility for those in need. It's a person to come in and bathe and eat, shower, get hygienic albums and items and so forth. So we'll be talking about that later on in the program. I'm Bernie Hayes, and we'll be right back with Dr. Ron Gregory after this.
We already see so many homeless people, but God only knows how many more are going to end up on the streets once the moratorium on evictions lift. So many hurting and homeless people and no place for them to go during the day, particularly in the downtown St. Louis area and even out in the county. So many hurting and homeless people left out in the streets and in the parks. Now, if we could just begin to work together to reopen 1411 Locust, things could change. We could do so many things at 1411 Locust that we're doing in Springfield at the day center we have there. So many people could be getting help at this time. As you know, New Life Evangelistic Center was closed by the Slay administration and the Cruzen administration back in April of 2017. We've waited 4 years. Thank God we finally got a new administration that seems very sensitive to the needs of the homeless. Now your help is needed as an advocate, as a prayer warrior, that we can get back into the 1411 Locust building. We can do this if you'll go to God in prayer. Right now we're commissioning our architects to come up with new architectural plans. We had spent over $80,000, but each time it was being stopped by the Cruzen and the Slay administration. Now with the new administration at hand, we believe that we'll be able to take steps forward to reopen this building. So homeless people, they're now in the parks where they can't shower, they can't store their belongings, they can't use internet service to find jobs, they can't get the meals, and they just need clean clothes and so many direct services to store their belongings alike that we could help them with here at 1411 Locust. Please go to God in earnest prayer and encourage your family and friends and everyone you know to contact our present mayor's office. I believe she cares a lot about the homeless, but she needs to know you're standing beside her and you're with her at this particular time. So please continue to pray. Please be an advocate in behalf of the homeless. I thank God for what Bernie Hayes is doing through his program. So many wonderful guests that he has. Now, will you please support our efforts as we work together to reopen 1411 Locust?
And welcome back. My guest is Dr. Ron Gregory. We were talking about Dr. Gregory running for mayor at one time. What year was that, Ron?
1989.
1989, yeah. Before that, we kept hearing about urban renewal. We know that it wiped out Chicago's black neighborhood. It wiped out Cleveland's black community. It wiped out most of New York's African-American community. It wiped out Atlanta's African-American community. Urban renewal. And it certainly had an effect in St. Louis, wiping out Mill Creek. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, what the federal government systematically does is that when you have a large black African-American community, they look at that as a power base, a voting block. And they create ways to split these, if not completely destroy them. One of the ways they do it, like you say, through urban renewal and highway development. They'll send a highway straight through those neighborhoods. Highway 40, which has become the Interstate 64, and Highway 70 did it, where it occupied a big swath of land, and in doing that, wiped out all the houses and all the people that lived in the area. The thing that bugs me so much is to think when I was a youngster growing up, the population of the inner city of St. Louis was 850,000. And they were thinking that, I think St. Louis was the 6th or the 7th largest city in the United States behind San Francisco. And it was felt that St. Louis would become the next city of 1 million people. But with the games they played during that time, St. Louis has lost over 500,000 of its population. And you go through certain areas, especially in the North St. Louis, that was, when I was growing up, was predominantly African American. All you see is vacant, crumbling houses, vacant lots. Whereas if the city fathers had been fair and helped the development, it would have been a booming area, and we would have reached that 1 million. The school had 103,000 students in there. Now it's something like less than 30,000 students, if that much. And it's just horrible, and it creates a void in your tax base.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about 500,000 people not earning, not spending, not paying taxes and things like that. And you say, well, how can a city survive with all of the expenses it has? Because, the upkeep of the streets has nothing to do with the amount of population you have.
Yeah. The Dan Ryan Expressway just brought a whole swath right down the middle of the African American community in Chicago. And I was so disappointed the last time I visited San Francisco. There was a Fillmore district. That was the black district. That was the African American community in San Francisco. And now the Fillmore district is merely just a street called Fillmore. The district is completely gone because of urban renewal. And that has been replaced by high expensive stores and shops. So Dr. Gregory, also healthcare was another thing that you campaigned on. And we wanted to give credit to Ms. Ollie Stewart at the Southside Wellness Center. You're on that board, right? You're president of the board, aren't you?
Yes, I became president shortly after I retired from the St. Louis school system, where I went back and taught for a few years. And I was also a director at a youth agency. But when I retired, my feeling was I had to still stay involved, and one of the best ways to stay involved is to get involved with an agency that is concerned about senior citizen welfare, which I and my wife and all my friends are a part of. So I got involved with Southside Wellness with a young lady, and I say a young lady who's in her 80s, but you'd think she was in her 40s or 50s. The energy she possesses to get the job done. And she's concerned about seniors eating well, getting to their doctor visits on time. So she has a transportation program, she has a feeding program, and she has a socialization program where the seniors can come and congregate and play cards and play bingo and just discuss things in general. And she's involved with making sure that we get people out to vote. But the thing that bothers me, and it bothers her, is that why is it that when you're attempting to do all this right by your neighbors and things, you would think people would be just glorifying you and what you do, and it seems like everywhere she turns, there are blocks in the road trying to prevent her from what she's doing. And one of the things she talks about is the transportation and the food program that exists in the St. Louis area is actually controlled by conglomerates in Florida and places way away from St. Louis that don't even understand the pulse of this city. But one thing she does, she keeps on fighting. And when back in December, when there was a tremendous amount of hesitancy about the COVID vaccine, and especially in the black community where people were thinking back during the time of the Tuskegee Tuskegee incident experiment, she convinced them, look, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a pandemic that's raging that will wipe our community out if we don't do something about it. So she organized one of the early vaccine sites in the city of St. Louis. And when it started out, she was supposed to be dealing with 200 people. And next thing we know, by the time it was over with, 300 people had come in and got the shot. But as a result of that, she caught a opened the minds of African Americans. The next thing you know, they started coming in wanting to get the shots.
Yeah. I always said they weren't limited to African Americans because Caucasians were there too. Whites got their shots there. There's so much more to talk about. We're talking about Miss Ollie Stewart at the 3017 Park Avenue. That's where it's located, Southside Wellness Center, the 3017 Park. Ron, how can we reach you, Dr. Ron Gregory?
I can be reached by my phone number, area code 314-361-7793. And if I'm not there, just leave me a message, and within the millennium, next millennium, I'll get back with you.
Within the millennium, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to be honest.
That's great. I want to come back and also talking about, and thank you for being a member of the board of the National Black Radio Hall of Fame and also the Wolf Jazz Institute at Harris Stowe State University. But we'll be right back after this.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to experience homelessness? Well, we have a very unique event coming up where you can put yourself in their shoes for a night. In the Night with the Homeless virtual event, you can camp out in your backyard or sleep on the floor or on a couch, intentionally make yourself uncomfortable. Learn more about what it's like to be homeless as we come together as a community for a night of solidarity with homeless men and women who don't have the choice. We want you to participate in this very unique event, October 22nd from 8 p.m. to 9 a.m. That's a Friday night. You can gather your family, you can get together with a youth group and make a difference in your community by educating yourself, inspiring yourself to make a change in the world, and then fundraising for New Life Evangelistic Center and all the work that they do. Please join us for this special event.
Today's subject, Frederick Jones, an inventor best known for the development of refrigeration equipment used to transport food and blood during World War II. After a challenging childhood, Frederick Jones taught himself mechanical and electrical engineering, inventing a range of devices relating to refrigeration, sounds, and automobiles. Portable refrigeration units developed by Jones helped the United States military carry food and blood during World War II. He designed and patented portable air conditioning units for trucks carrying perishable food. Over the course of his career, Jones received more than 60 patents, and while the majority pertained to refrigeration technology, the others related to X-ray machines, engines, and sound equipment. In 1944, he became the first African American elected to the American Society of Refrigeration Engineers. Jones died of lung cancer in Minneapolis, Minnesota, February 21st, 1961. Frederick Jones.
New Life Evangelistic Center is celebrating 50 years of God's faithfulness. For many of those years, Bernie Hayes has been a direct part of the work of New Life Evangelistic Center. I thank God for Bernie, his faithfulness, and how he is such a legend when it comes to broadcasting throughout the greater St. Louis area. Will you join Bernie and myself as we celebrate the 50 years of God's faithfulness? I want to involve you in the planning committee, for we got a lot of great things in store in 2022. Why don't you call us at 314-421-3020 and be a part of that committee? Or go to www.newlifeevangelisticcenter.org. Will you celebrate the 50 years of God's faithfulness along with Bernie Hayes and myself and so many others throughout Mid-America? I know that the Lord has ministered to many of you through the work of New Life Evangelistic Center. We'd like to have you share your memories with us. So will you call us at 314-421-3020 or contact us at Come By 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. Yes, we're celebrating God is faithful.
And welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes. My guest is Dr. Ron Gregory, president of the New Millennium Group, and also a board member of the National Black Radio Hall of Fame and the Wolf Jazz Institute at Harris Stowe State University. Ron, you and I, Doug Eason, Scotty Lawrence, EDB, Dr. John, wow, John's last name, you know. And well, so many people on the board there. Robert Hansman. The board presents different concerts and so forth, free to the public. And I want to thank you for being on that board. But there's so much more that you can do. How did the Ville itself, which is now on a restorative program, how did that survive like we said, we lost Mill Creek, we lost Fillmore District, we lost part of the Chicago South Side. How did the Ville survive?
The Ville is on life support right now, but it's still here, and there is a big fight to revitalize the area. One of the problems with the Ville organization is most of the people who were intricately involved in the Ville as youngsters, we're up in our 70s and 80s, and there was this move where we were given the impression that there was something wrong with our neighborhood, and basically what we wanted to do was to get out and live in suburbia. So at the time where the people who were developing a great income and who were in position to revitalize the Ville and keep it the historical area that it was, we were convinced to move out of the area, and we took our money someplace else. But there was a play that was put on, and I hate to say that the names of the people who put it together escapes me.
In Thomasina?
Yeah, but they did a tremendous job of talking about the history of the Ville. And here I am in my 80s, grew up in the Ville, and there were some things that was highlighted about the accomplishments of the Ville.
The play was Shakespeare at the Ville, right?
Yeah, Shakespeare at the Ville.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize, but I had benefited from the things that happened long before I was born, and these were some of the things that encouraged me, to achieve to the point where, I left Sumner High School in 1957 and went to spend 4 years at the University of Notre Dame as a track and student there at Notre Dame. And I look back, and all of the background and the things that pushed me into that direction, and I wasn't even aware that I was being pushed in that direction, was right there in the Ville.
Mm-hmm. Once again, how can we reach you? Your phone number, please.
Area code 314-361-7793.
That's Dr. Ron Gregory. And Dr. Gregory, you're now doing comedy also, I understand. You not imitating your brother, Dick Gregory, but you're doing comedy on your own. They call you Dr. Knees, I understand.
Yeah, and the thing that's so crazy is that a lot of the things that I did before Dick, and then later on he came on to do, they thought that I was following in his, in his footsteps. He created this tremendous health product and was concerned about people's health. But a lot of people don't even realize that in 1965, I opened up a health and fitness center in the city of St. Louis that operated for over a year.
I recall that. We're out of time, Dr. Gregory. I'm so sorry to cut you off because you have so much information to give us. I just got to invite you back again the next time.
Thank you, Bernie. I always appreciate being on your show.
And I always appreciate you coming. And I want to thank each and every one of you for viewing us today and for supporting the New Life Evangelistic Center. Our address is 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. The zip code is 63114. In case you can bring by cases of water, some food or clothing and so forth. I'm Bernie Hayes. Have a great day. And please get your shots, be vaccinated, and stay safe.